strategies would you recommend for collecting like high quality data from various sources?
Yeah, so I think a lot of so if it's primary data collection, right? So then obviously you want to be very alert about the sources that are giving you that information. You want to make sure that the behavior is actual real behavior. You could get stated data, for example, that sometimes, you know, as a lot of us in analytics say, you have outliers and then you have out and outliers, right? And so you want to make sure that what people are saying is actually something that is indicative of how they're going to behave, right? So primary, I think, to get good data, you can't just collect it. You've got to kind of look at it, mine it a little bit to see that, hey, does this validate some of the observed behaviors I see out there? But most of the massive data sets are in the secondary realm, right? That's where we have kind of the huge amounts of data. For example, in healthcare, a lot of our prescription data, a lot of physician behavior, all of that is massive, right? And what we really look for there, and as I'm sure they do in other industries, is that data accurate? Has that been independently verified? Is the data collection process actually sound? Right? And what I mean by that is you're never going to be able to get to the universe, right? You're going to have to go off a sample. Is that sample complete? Does it represent all of the entities you want to be looking at? Is the projection from that sample to that universe, because it's massive and could provide a lot of differences in entities, is that projection methodology itself good, right? So you don't want to roll up your sleeves and examine that the way the supplier of that data actually projected that data is accurate, because otherwise you're just using data that you're assuming is correct, and it may not hold in the sample, right? So there's that dimension. There's various aspects of accuracy in data from the point of view of the content of the data. Is the data actually, do you not have many missing values in fields? Because as we all know, that can be very problematic. And then you have to substitute values, and that kind of takes away the power of the data itself in terms of variation. So there's that whole bit. You want to look for outliers. You don't want too many outliers. You want some semblance of a distribution in your data. And even if you have very varied data, you want a strong understanding of what are the degrees of variance that data represents, because these all become extremely important when you get to the analytics end of the spectrum. So those are the steps that we use, and we look for. What I would say is completeness of data. You want all the information that you're really looking to analyze to be present in that data set. You want consistency, right? You want the same field being exactly the same wherever it appears in the data set. We have dealt with data sometimes where the same thing is differently represented, right? This happens sometimes, but you don't want to go into an analysis without that resolved, right? So there are those steps that we look at that really ensure that the data is good and is really clean to be able to use it for analytics.
But also, I think obviously because you've got the different types there, you've got to leverage different technologies, I guess, and then also training the team members. That's you've got to include that into the mix.
Yeah, and I think, Ben, what I would tell you, right, is I love the question you asked, right? Because as I mentioned before, you know, all of this, the parts before the data got to the analytics practitioner, even today, used to be handled primarily as an ETL task, right, by information technology. It is now changed, right? It is very important, and I know, since you work in the talent space, this is one of the really missing skills, right? Is we need, especially as we go into machine learning and deep learning and all of that stuff, you need a very good understanding as an analytics professional, as a data scientist, of the data environment, you know data governance, how is data transformed, all how is data provisioned and made ready for analytics, because unless you participate actively in that process, you're pretty much captive to whatever you get, right? So I think it's a very important question that you asked, and one that doesn't really get the importance in analytics discussions even today, but I think you're going to see that changing very rapidly. It's already changing.
Yeah. No, like I said, I mean, it used to be like, what's it, DBA's job, wasn't it? I mean, that's even data engineering. That's completely evolved now. I mean, even like we're seeing like requirements more. I guess more sort of. Well, you've got the data aspects, BI, but then also like the software type skills coming in now as well. So I guess yeah, it's constantly evolving, isn't it? The skill sets, and obviously
Yeah.
you got to have that data knowledge and then also software skills. It's a lot, isn't it, to for someone to learn and master.
Yep, yep, and that's why many groups, including ours in analytics, have a data management oversight function, right? Because it's akin to the kitchen and the restaurant, and then I'm sure you've heard this analogy many times. But people used to talk about IT being in the kitchen and then the analytics people and stakeholders being in the restaurant, and what's really grown over time is the brokering between the kitchen and the restaurant, right? And that's the role of what I would. They're not quite data engineers, they're not quite data analytics professionals, but they've got to talk both languages and they've got to broker that conversation because of the complexity and speed with which this is coming at us, right? So it is an evolution. It's a very rapid evolution, and I think you're going to see a lot of organizations kind of getting on this bus if they're not already there.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I mean, and also then you got other things like data privacy and all that's coming.
So
It's
that's a whole other
It's
ball game.
growing, isn't it? So
Yeah,
obviously, I guess depending on the size of your company, obviously, if you've got that investment already behind you, it's going to be a lot easier, isn't it?
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
for smaller companies, that's where the challenges lie.